Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo. A victory Monday, always fun and enjoyable to enjoy a victory Monday. And the Giants, obviously overcame the Carolina Panthers on Sunday, a pretty bad team, but there was some standout performances. I want to talk about Daniel Jones. I want to talk about Azeez Ojulari, and I want to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs next weekend and how this really is a must-win game. Obviously, they're all must-wins at this point, having lost 5 of their first 6 games, but now they're 2-5. They're staring what hopes to be an easier schedule in terms of defenses they have to play, and hopefully they get guys like Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay back, maybe Saquon. But again, the Giants are still struggling, right? I'm not going to get over the top here and say this is a turnaround game. They're still struggling. Carolina's offense is playing very poorly. Did Sam Darnold look like he was completely lost all day? But I want to credit the defense for the Giants for making that happen. So we want to talk about a couple individual performances. Anthony, before we dive into that good stuff, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm always doing good on a victory Monday. Feeling much better now that the Giants got a victory on Sunday, beat the Carolina Panthers. It was actually a blowout victory, the Giants' first blowout victory in God knows how long. Definitely wasn't going into that game expected for the Giants to come away with a blowout victory, but nonetheless, they did. They came away with a blowout victory despite having Saquon Barkley out with an injury, Kenny Golladay out with an injury, Sterling Shepard out with an injury, Kadarius Toney out with an injury, Andrew Thomas out with an injury. They had so many injuries on offense, yet still they found a way to put up 25 points. Granted, a lot of those were on field goals, 2 of them from the defense with the safety, but the Giants did go out there and they played a pretty good game. And a lot of that you have to give credit to Jason Garrett, Joe Judge, coaching staff did a pretty good job, and also Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones with no help around him, basically. All of his top playmakers out for this game, went out there, found a way to grind it out and get a big victory. So very exciting performance from him and from Azeez Ojulari and a couple others. James Bradbury as well. Graham Gano had a great game also. Really good performance by the Giants, an exciting one. Don't want to get ahead of ourselves. But yes, it's time to look ahead to next week as well and say if the Giants can go, 2 wins in a row here, might be able to build on something, might have something special in the tank. But for right now, just happy with this victory Monday.
Yeah, and credit to Daniel Jones, man, standing behind that abomination of an offensive line. No, Matt Pert wasn't hit with a quarterback hit, a hurry, or a sack, but they were rushing the ball out. They were trying to get the ball out of Daniel Jones's hands quickly and roll him out to the right side to his strong side and get the ball out without too much pressure. And it was quick. The offense was quick, but credit the defense for giving them great field possession. Carolina only had 3 drives that were actually in Giants territory. Obviously, only walked away with 3 points in the first half. And I think for the most part, I was pretty damn impressed, especially with the Giants' ability to get off the field on third downs. That's been the biggest weakness for the Giants this year. They get to third downs. They get to fourth down. They just can't get off the field on those plays. They give up too many conversions. They only gave up 2 conversions on 15 attempts against Carolina, which really showed a difference maker. That was the catalyst in the game, in my opinion. The Giants getting off the field when they needed to, getting that ball back. They were, punting. They were Carolina was backed up into their own territory. So the Giants offense got a lot of good opportunities. And I know, for the most part, they weren't explosive. They weren't doing anything that was just out of this world. But I will say that they did well when they needed to, and they put up points in the final quarter, which was really important. I think they had 13 points in the fourth quarter. So those were a couple things that really contributed toward this win. It was very evident that we missed Kadarius Toney, Kenny Golladay, Saquon. We missed these guys, Andrew Thomas especially. There was a clear-cut touchdown to Darius Slayton that Daniel Jones got hit on. The throw was off the mark. But altogether, Daniel Jones, he ran, he passed, he caught. He did everything in his power to win this game. He had a solid, clean game, no turnover-worthy plays. That was really the standout for me, was that Daniel Jones, despite all of the negative factors, came out and played his ass off. And he showed us that, yes, he can win games despite being behind a terrible offensive line and all of his weapons being out. That was a huge indication. Scoring 25 points with that offense, Daniel Jones proved to me that he can be the guy if he's not the guy just yet. We said last week after that tough game against the Rams, coming off a really bad concussion in Dallas, I don't blame him. I didn't blame him for that game. He made a couple bad reads, but again, he was getting chased around the field. The Rams are a far better team than Carolina, but at the end of the day, you got to be able to beat struggling teams. And the Giants did that against Carolina with a bad offense. And I think that really stood out to me as a moment for Daniel Jones that said, you know what, he can rise to the occasion and beat bad teams. especially when his offense is in shreds. So shout out to him for that good performance. I know some people will still say they saw inconsistencies or whatever and this and that, but the guy's got freaking heart, man. I'll tell you what, Daniel Jones has got heart that nobody can say that that's not true. There's nobody that disagrees that says that guy doesn't have heart. He's taking big hits all season long. He's bouncing back up and he's coming back after concussions. I give a lot of credit to him for the effort he's put into this season and the growth he's shown despite all the factors working against him, Anthony. When you're looking at him after this game, do you see a quarterback that you trust moving forward? Do you think it's enough to prove he deserves another season? At this point, I'm leaning towards yes.
And I am too. I'm leaning towards yes. I think that this is a quarterback that the Giants could build around. Okay, he just went out there, got this win with nothing around him. The Giants continue to build around him. If the defense can continue to play this way, if the offense gets healthy and plays well around him, you can win games with Daniel Jones as your quarterback. And I think that he can actually be the reason that you win games. I think there's been a few moments this season where Daniel Jones has really carried the Giants offense to a victory against the Saints or to competition, against the Washington football team. The Giants were really in that game because of Daniel Jones and the great performance that he had in that contest. So with Daniel Jones, especially when you're discussing, does he deserve one more season? Yes, I believe so. I believe that he should play next year as the Giants starting quarterback. That's what the plan should be, to build around him one more offseason and then go into 2022 with him. And one of the main reasons why is because so many question marks at the quarterback position in this year's draft class. Alex and I have discussed this before. I have so many questions about Malik Willis. He has a lot of questions about Spencer Rattler. Some people have both of those quarterbacks as the consensus number one. There is no consensus, exactly that. So when you're going into a draft class like this and you have a decent quarterback that you think you might be able to build around, in my opinion, just continue to build around him. Don't risk resetting the window and pushing yourself even further back by taking a chance on a quarterback prospect with a ton of question marks that you're not really fully convicted in. So I'm saying Daniel Jones, he's shown enough through these games. If he can continue to play like this through the rest of the season all the way to the end, if he can continue to play at this high level, then yes, the Giants should at least give him one more year and continue to build around him. You got 2 first-round picks. You could fix the offensive line with those picks. You could fix the pass rush with those picks. And the pass rush seems to finally be coming together, okay? Azeez Ojulari looked like the stud that I knew he would be when I kept banging the table saying the Giants need to draft him pre-draft, right? So all of that said, put together with Daniel Jones, let's say he gets Saquon back in a couple weeks. Let's say Kadarius Toney comes back in a couple weeks. He might start throwing 3-4 touchdown passes a game with all of those players around him because there is a lot of talent on this offense when it's healthy. So if it can get healthy and Jason Garrett can continue to call good games like he did yesterday, because he did call a pretty good game, then the Giants can absolutely go out there with Daniel Jones and feel confident Sunday after Sunday that he can be the guy to lead them to victories.
Yeah, I mean, look, Daniel Jones has had a rocky career, up and down. The Giants have not given him an adequate offensive line. But I will say this: they have 2 first-round picks next year. They have a lot of injuries right now. Andrew Thomas is out. Nate Solder's a turnstile. There is reason for optimism next season that we bring in a couple of decent offensive linemen in the draft, whether it's Evan Neal, whoever it might be. We'll obviously do the evaluations during the offseason. But Daniel Jones, and we saw him against the Saints when the offensive line plays well, and that was the only week that I was like, okay, they did a good job. He looked great, right? And then you add in the factors of Kadarius Toney, and you add in the factors of Kenny Galladay. Like, those guys are capable of being great players. Now, I will say this: that does not excuse the idea of trading away some guys. I think Evan Engram should be traded. I think that, maybe Jabril Peppers, although he did look like a catalyst yesterday. He had a sack. He had a couple of nice plays. I thought he played well, but at this point, maybe they're on their 5th-year options. Maybe they're not going to be resigned. I don't think the Giants are bringing back Jabril Peppers. I think Aaron Robinson will take over his role personally. So that might be a good opportunity for the Giants to get some draft capital in the meantime, if not get a compensatory picks for 2023. But I think I really like Caden Smith. I don't know why he doesn't get more opportunities, but that's just the way the ball rolls, I guess.
Well,
But
one
Daniel
thing
Jones,
about Caden Smith is that I read is that he's
the
actually
knee
dealing with
injury.
a knee injury. So that's
Yeah.
the reason that he's not getting more involved than Kyle Rudolph, even though Kyle Rudolph is clearly playing not so good football. I mean, he has been for most of the season at least, but Caden Smith's knee injury is what's holding him back.
Right. So that's an interesting point to make. Maybe next year they look at Caden Smith as a more prominent factor in this offense for Daniel Jones. Like, he's a good pass catcher. He's a good blocker. Like, he's a solid player. But again, if that injury is holding him back, then, that's probably the reason he's not getting enough reps. And they could replace Evan Engram with him pretty swiftly, in my opinion. You don't necessarily need such an athletic tight end when you have Kadarius Toney. You know what I mean? Kadarius Toney is the perfect weapon for the Giants offense because if the offensive line is not playing well, they can get Tony the ball in short area spaces and he will make plays himself, right? Like you can get the ball out quickly, get him the football, and he will do the rest. Like he'll make those plays. He's so quick, so agile. He'll pick up extra yards. He's basically like what you want if your offensive line isn't playing well. Now, if it is playing well, you can let him develop routes. And then when that starts to happen, like we saw against the Saints, he's running crossers that he's actually given time to finish those routes. And he gets the ball 20 yards downfield. Now he has to make one or two guys miss instead of 7 or 8. You know what I mean? So like you're just opening up the playbook so much more. And I really loved what the Rams did this past week with Cooper Kupp. They actually brought him back into the backfield and they ran option routes with him. So like they're really developing another section of their playbook for Cooper Kupp, and he's allowed to make the decision: am I going to run a slant or am I going to run a quick out, depending on what the defensive look is? And I think the way that Kadarius Toney can learn and be a bigger factor in this offense is if they give him more responsibility as he eases in. It's going to take time. You know, so this is not going to be a 1 week differential. You need a year. You need a good source of a good like sample size of plays and experience for him. But once they start to use him in unique ways, get him into the backfield, allow him to really take advantage and use that quickness on those options, I think that Daniel Jones and him could have a very special connection. And that's where I see this offense going. I think that a lot of people might say we're going to run through Kenny Galladay or we're going to run through Saquon. I think that when Kadarius Toney's healthy, this offense is going to run through Kadarius Toney. That's how I see the future of this offense going. And I think that's the best way to do it, because if you have so much defensive talent, just always looking at Kadarius Toney, we have to shut him down, it's going to open up the field for Kenny Galladay. It's going to open up the field for Saquon. It's going to open up the field for the other playmakers, whether it's Darius Slayton, John Ross, or, you know, if he's on the team next year, that is, or, you know, anybody else, even the tight ends. So I'm pretty optimistic about this offense going forward in terms of the personnel. They just got to stay healthy, man. Like super unlucky. You know, that's really unfortunate. Now, the question obviously boils down to what happens with Jason Garrett. I know there's a couple reports flowing around that, you know, they might just stick with him for the future and he might not be gone. Daniel Jones has only thrown 2 red zone touchdowns this year, which is super disappointing. His red zone offense is super vanilla, super bland. It's awful for the most part. However, against Carolina, he had a couple of really good play call drives there. A couple of drives that I was like, okay, like he's doing a good job. He's doing well with what the offense has and the personnel wise. Offensive line, you know, and everything. I mean, the catch by Daniel Jones definitely sparked a little bit of momentum within that team. Right after that, they scored, and then they scored a couple more times. So I was pretty impressed with Daniel Jones there and really helping his team, you know, give him that extra edge. But Jason Garrett, he definitely lacks in the red zone area. I think that maybe this upcoming offseason, they bring in somebody to help devise a different scheme for the red zone specifically. Maybe they build a new system for the red zone. I don't think Jason Garrett and the coaching staff has done a good enough job there. So maybe they bring in another guy to help them, you know, that has more experience in that area, maybe has some success at another level that they really like. So that's something to keep in mind that they might do. But Anthony, let's talk about Azeez Ojulari, because I freaking love that kid. I freaking love the way he performed against Carolina. He really took it to heart, man. People said against the Rams, we had no pressures from our outside linebacker. He said, okay, I'm going to do it alone then. Lorenzo Carter left the game early with an ankle issue. And Azeez Ojulari said, you know what? I'm 21 years old. I had my first legal alcoholic drink like 3 months ago. So now I'm going to go on this football field against grown-ass men, 25, 35, 30-year-old guys, and I'm going to beat the shit out of them. And he went out there and he had 8 total pressures, 3 sacks, 1 quarterback hit, 4 hurries. The guy was an absolute animal. He absolutely killed it. He's on pace for 13 sacks. 13 sacks this year, which would be the most since 2011 when JPP had like 16 and a half sacks. The Giants are now in a position where they can say, we have a young gun at outside linebacker that can really be the future of that unit. Now all we have to do, we have 2 first-round picks. Let's go and see if we can get a guy like Drake Jackson or Hutchinson from Michigan. There's a ton of really good pass rushers in this draft class. The Giants will have an opportunity to get one of them. Pair them with Azeez Ojulari. You're looking at a pretty solid defensive front there for the future. And I think that's where the future of this defense is going, and running through the pass rush. If they end up passing on an edge rusher, there's some really good players there. I'd be really disappointed because I think that they need one. Lorenzo Carter, Oshane Ximines is just not enough at this point unless they go out and spend some money, which I doubt they do. We don't have much of it, Anthony. But when you're looking at Azeez, how excited are you for the future? I know you said, like, you were like, oh, we really got to get that guy. I was not a fan of him at 11, but at 50, absolute freaking steal. And I think that we can all agree the Giants really hit a home run with that selection.
Yeah, we should all be in agreement about that. I mean, You know that I thought that he was worthy of being a top 15, even the top 11 pick. I thought 11, yes, was a reach, but it wasn't a huge reach because I thought he was a top 15 to 20 talent. So it wasn't a huge reach to me, and I would have been totally fine with him at 11. And I know a lot of fans and analysts of other teams thought the exact same thing, that if he was taken in the top 15 to 20 picks, it would be a good selection. Of course, he fell all the way to round two, fell all the way to pick 50, and the Giants finally made the decision to go ahead and draft Azeez Ojulari. And I stood up from my chair, I started punching the air, and I started screaming because I was so excited about it. I thought that was an excellent selection by the Giants, and because I always thought that this was a kid, a young kid who was only like 7 months older than I am. He's a young kid who could go out there and learn and just be a raw prospect that the Giants can mold. What you're looking for in the NFL draft is you're looking for moldable pieces of clay. Some clay is more moldable than other pieces of clay, right? He was a very moldable piece of clay because he's so young, he's so athletic, gifted in his athletics. He's so talented already. He already had a couple of nice pass rush moves. He just had to add a few more to his arsenal, refine his run defense, and then just improve. Basically, he's already got this great baseline of talent. He just has to build on it, right? There's a really strong, solid foundation. Now build a freaking skyscraper, Azeez, and that's what he's on his way to doing. And I think that's really exciting for the Giants because when you're talking about a second round pick, I mean, the Giants have gone through third round picks at pass rusher, at edge rusher, and just none of them have really panned out. Oshane Ximines and not really making that impact. Lorenzo Carter not really making that impact. But finally, they get a first round talent, in my opinion, in Azeez Ojulari in the second round. And yes, now they finally have one of these premier pass rushing prospects to build off of and to kind of form into an elite pass rusher. And he already looks like he's on his way to becoming that. He's already got 5.5 sacks, which ties the New York Giants rookie record for most sacks in a season with BJ Hill from 2018, right? So there you go, right there. He's already done that. That was a full season of BJ Hill. This is a first quarter and a half of a season, right? So Azeez Ojulari is already building something together, and he's already turned himself into a really great player. I always loved his speed in college when he was playing at Georgia. He had so much bend and burst around the edge, and we're already seeing that week after week. We're seeing that make an impact and come up game after game. And now he just has to add a couple more pass rush moves, like I said, and then just improve in the running game and give it 3 years. By the time he's 23 years old, Azeez Ojulari is going to be an elite outside linebacker, in my opinion. I really do believe that, and I always did think that. No, he wasn't the most refined pass rusher in this year's class. That's probably Jalen Phillips. He had so many pass rush moves, went to Miami, but he was the most boom prospect. Azeez has so much potential, so young, so gifted athletically, physically, and now he's just building his talent together. Like I said, strong foundation. Azeez is going to become a skyscraper in New York City, and I can't wait to watch it happen.
I mean, he's definitely in the running for rookie of the year on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, the stats, he has 5.5 sacks. He's leading all rookies at this point in the sack category. So that's pretty awesome. That's really like what I'd love to see from a Giants rookie. Like that's the type of talent we want to see from them and the type of production. But let's hop over to, Kansas City really quickly, and we'll do more evaluation later on in the week. But I gotta say, Kansas City's struggling right now. Patrick Mahomes had a kind of a scary injury last week. Got hit in the head. His neck bended back, but he was cleared of concussion, so he'll probably be available against the Giants. I'd rather obviously see a more healthy player. I don't want to see anyone get injured. But Kansas City's struggling, man. Their defense is worse than the Giants. They're allowing 29 points on average per game, which is really bad. I mean, it's really bad. The Giants are allowing 25.7. They're allowing 275 rushing or passing yards, and let's see, 275 passing yards and 128 rushing yards. So that's both more than the Giants. I mean, their defense is in shambles. The Giants are going to need Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay back if they want to beat the Chiefs. They're going to have to outscore them. Like the Chiefs' offense isn't bad by any means. They have struggled. That Tennessee just completely whipped the crap out of them. But let's take a look here. So let's see if we can find Kansas City. They're pretty good. They're top 10 in offense, right? They're averaging about 27 points per game. The Giants are at 20 points per game. They're going to need a healthy Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay to beat this Chiefs squad, even if their defense is struggling, Anthony. What do you think the catalyst is? I think, honestly, the catalyst is getting to Patrick Mahomes. You just have to put pressure on him. But then again, he's so good out of the pocket. He's so good on the run. I think that the Giants probably have to, get him on the ground, create turnovers, and it's really going to be about outscoring them. Like they're not going to really, I don't think they're going to have the same success defensively as Tennessee did this past weekend, but Stopping guys like Tyreek Hill is really hard to do, especially when the Giants are kind of susceptible to getting beat deep on occasion. They're going to have to play two deep safeties. They're going to have to be able to limit those deep throws. But at the same time, Patrick Mahomes is so elite in getting the ball out on those short to intermediate throws. It's going to be about putting pressure in his face, getting off the field on third downs. That's the big catalyst of this past game against Carolina. They got to get off the field on third downs, and they got to get good field position on offense. Like, it's going to be about, they got to score 25 plus points to beat this team, even if Tennessee held them to, 3 this past week. And what do you think the catalyst for the Giants is to beat Kansas City?
Yeah, I think the catalyst is getting Patrick Mahomes to turn the ball over. Do you know who leads the league in interceptions right now? It's Patrick Mahomes with 9 picks. So he's not having a season that we're typically seeing from Patrick Mahomes. This is definitely his off year. He's turning the ball over at a much higher rate than he ever has before. Yes, he's still throwing a bunch of touchdown passes. He has 18 touchdown passes. He's still Patrick Mahomes, okay? He's still great out off script, out of the pocket, throwing the ball deep, throwing the ball short. He's Patrick Mahomes, okay? He's talented. But the Giants have to win the turnover battle, because if they are able to do that, if Daniel Jones can keep the ball clean like he has been for the most part this season, if he can keep the ball clean and we can get Patrick Mahomes to give us a couple picks, turn the ball over once or twice, that's the key for the Giants. But of course, for the Giants, they have to capitalize on those turnovers and convert them to points. That's been a struggle for the Giants this year. They've really struggled to go from getting a turnover and converting it to a touchdown on offense. That's been a real problem for the Giants this year. They keep getting turnovers, field goals, or punts. That can't happen from now on. You got to get a pick against Patrick Mahomes, and you have to take that ball and put it in the end zone. That's how you're going to beat the Chiefs. Now, for the defense, right? How do they get Patrick Mahomes to throw these picks? Well, I think you got to go back to playing that disguise coverage defense, right? And it seems like the Giants did a little bit more of that this past weekend, because we saw a lot more blitzing from Jabril Peppers, more creative defensive activity, right? So if the Giants can get really creative on defense again, run something pretty complex, one of those defensive schemes that is just more prone to creating turnovers than not, right? With the press man, you're really just thinking about playing and locking people up and getting coverage sacks. That's the goal with that. But when you're playing that disguise zone coverage defense, you're trying to confuse quarterbacks into throwing picks. And since Patrick Mahomes has been throwing interceptions at such a high rate this season, I think that's what the Giants should be doing. They should be trying to confuse him and get him to throw a couple picks, because if he throws us one or two and we can capitalize on that, capitalize on those turnovers with touchdowns and not turn the ball over ourselves, then that's how the Giants are going to win this game and beat the Kansas City Chiefs. The struggling Kansas City Chiefs, keep that in mind. They are not the Chiefs of last year. This is not the team that we would have faced last season. It's a completely different team, almost day and night differences. So the Giants actually do have a chance of winning this game. This is a not winnable game. I don't know. It's still the Chiefs, right? It's still the Chiefs. It's still Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. But Patrick Mahomes playing at the level he's playing at, plus he's coming off of this injury. Yes, he cleared concussion protocol. They still held him out of the game, and he's going to play this next week. But Daniel Jones cleared concussion protocol and then had one of the worst games of his career against the Los Angeles Rams. That stuff still
True.
messes with you. It still can lead you into having a bad game the following week. So Patrick Mahomes
Second
might
guessing.
walk into this Giants game Monday night and just play bad football. It's very possible. And if Patrick Mahomes plays bad football and he turns the ball over a few times, which he's been prone to do, then the Giants can capitalize on those turnovers and get themselves a surprise upset victory against the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday night. And then you're just going to say, oh, the momentum's coming. The wheels are turning, right? 3 wins on the season. Uh-oh. Here comes the Giants. They got a bye week coming up. Everyone can get healthy on that. And then we can go for that second stretch of the season and finish the year with some victories possibly. So, yeah, this is a game that the Giants do have an opportunity to win. It's not going to be easy. This is against the team that, yes, was in the Super Bowl last year, so you got to keep that in mind, of course. But Patrick Mahomes playing the way that he's been playing this year, if the Giants can get him to throw a couple picks, we can be in good shape. We just got to capitalize on those and get a win that way.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Giants right now are, I mean, obviously they're in last place in the NFC East, but they're really tied for last place. All Washington and Philly, both are 2-5. Of course, they lost to Washington and Dallas. Dallas is 5-1. They've won 5 games in a row. I pretty much think that Dallas is going to win this division. But in the hopes of anything, and I don't really think we have much of a shot here. The wild card teams, the Giants are still far and away. They're. I mean, honestly, the NFC is kind of crap. Aside from Arizona, Tampa, Green Bay, Dallas, and the Rams, everything is up for grabs. New Orleans is not doing well. Minnesota's not really good. Atlanta. There's no really other teams that stand out. If the Giants can win against the Carolina Panthers and they already beat them. If they can beat Kansas City, they might be able to sneak in if they win like 90% of the remainder of their games. Now, I'm getting way ahead of myself. I'm getting very optimistic, but hey, I like to be positive, man. I hate watching the Giants lose on a weekly basis. It is depressing. People tune out. Like we do this daily, so obviously we want to talk about more positive stuff. So I'll try to be as positive as I can for you guys. I know it might not be as realistic as you'd hope, but at the end of the day, it's necessary. But guys, thank you so much for tuning into Fireside Giants. Make sure to go below in the description to hit up our sponsor, BUSR, BUSR. They're giving away $250. All you have to do is sign up. And if you want to get a free bet, minimum deposit is $100. They'll match it for free. So they're matching whatever, $100 to $500. They're matching it, so you don't even have to spend $1. All you have to do is deposit. And then you also entered into for the $250 free raffle. So you're pretty much in good shape for that. So make sure you don't go take advantage of that. They're trying to give some good stuff away for you guys, pretty much giving money away. So go enjoy their services. It's really good sports book. I've been using it myself. And of course, I would never try to get you guys on something that I don't use myself and I also haven't tested. So it's all good over there. And obviously, make sure to have a fantastic week. Enjoy your Monday. Enjoy your Tuesday. Enjoy the victory. Have a nice drink. And make sure to subscribe below on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. As always, we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Giants video.